Hello, friends, and welcome to the Driving Loaded podcast, where two former Army Rangers provide insight to their life post-military, a unique perspective on life, family, and careers. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's been a while. Jordan and I have been quite busy. Jordan more so than I have. He's had a lot of things going on. I've had several things going on, and obviously everyone's dealing with this Corona episode thing. But here we are again for another episode. Glad that y'all are listening, and we've had some people asking us like, what the crap? Where's the next episode? So it makes us feel good. I'm glad to hear that. How are things going, Jordan?
It's been pretty crazy. All things considered, I think the whole world is, on fire right now, which I get it. There's a lot of stressed out people, and what happens when you get a lot of stressed out people in given environments? It's a recipe for disaster. But, on a business front, because we went to Vegas a couple weeks ago for the ConAg show, and that was my first time attending. So there's a lot of prep work, a lot of stress leading up to that event. The event happens. We actually had a phenomenal showing for us, and you talked about the idea of adapting and overcoming in the military setting. We didn't have on paper a perfect scenario for showcasing what our product is and how it can work. And given our budget right now, honestly, I don't think we could have had a better experience at that show. For instance, we are at this most awkward place. We get there, it's kind of what the heck are we going to do here? So there's a monorail station, people coming up the stairs, or up the escalators rather, and then they come through this corridor area where we are, and then they go down another set of escalators to go to the show. So I would say 2/3 of the participants take the monorail into that show. So we had two banners set up, and we had a banner on the top side of the stairs going up, and then when people go down, they'd see our banner as well. So exposure-wise, we had a ton of exposure. We had a lot of good conversations. The cool thing is we're an early adopter market for our product. But there was so many families out there because our why is really to give back time to families, to give back the idea of, people getting off work and actually leaving work at work. And so we had created this pretty cool mural banner thing, and the message resonated well with the people. So that was cool in general to see people get excited about a product like ours, just from the emotional standpoint. They got what we're trying to accomplish with it. So we walked away with a lot of excited people about, trying out our platform and something new because they understood what we're trying to accomplish. And the one crappy thing, or not one crappy thing, but one of the crappy things was the timing of this virus. We get a lot of excitement, and then all of a sudden the show gets shut down a day early, and then the world goes into a tailspin panic. So any traction we got kind of got stifled some. But I think once we start to see a recovery of this and the panic slow down a little bit, I think it'll get better again.
Yeah, and I think despite the the virus going around and whatnot, you did have that exposure to all those people. So at least, they're going to remember that. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a pause in between, but hey, you got to expose a lot of people to LoadTrax, which is good.
Yeah, and so one of the things I was really struck with at the event and then after the event is we didn't have like I said, the best setup there, the best prep time and prep whatever done. But the idea of just going out and doing something and then getting an object in motion tends to stay in motion unless an equal or opposite force, is applied, right? So the idea of what we did is we did something. We got out in front of a consumer base and we made ourselves, vulnerable, put ourselves on display for people to see as it's a product for them or not. And the fact of the matter is we made a lot of good contacts just by being there. And I know there's a video I had shared with you about just getting out and just doing it. You have to do things and stay not just busy, but you have to put yourself in a position to succeed. And sometimes that just, showing up, doing the right things, going through the motions day after day. You have to put in the work and the time to have any kind of success. So it was definitely a very stark tell to me that, people like us can succeed, but it's going to take the work. It's going to take the grind and the daily, progress of showing up and putting in the work. And I think success will come.
Yeah, absolutely. If you give up on it, then It's so, you'd always be like, well, it could have been something, maybe not, who knows? But you don't know if you don't try. And you guys are in that grind phase where you just gotta, as like a lot of people say, you gotta grind, gotta grind, gotta grind. So it happens, man. If you don't show up, nothing's gonna happen.
100% agree. And, going back to kind of this state we're in with the coronavirus and I know we kind of joke about it some. I know it's a serious virus. I get this. But as the news has kind of portrayed in different avenues, and the response we're given to this is almost, in my opinion, worse than the actual virus. More people are being negatively affected by the fallout of this than the actual virus. And I'm not by any means downplaying the fact that people are dying, and that's very serious. But in the grand scheme of things, when we talk about death, like to our last conversations, you mentioned abortion. I mentioned DUI crashes and drug overdoses and heart disease, and all these different things kill people. And we live our lives. We continue to live our lives, and people die. It's a fact of life. So, I'm a little bit concerned right now for where, like, our company, obviously we have many companies that come together that own this product. The respective companies that are funding the project, myself included, like, they're in a position now where, like, tomorrow's not guaranteed. They have projects that are going right now, but at any given point they could be shut down and then the funding is stopped. Like, so, I mean, it's definitely a stressful, tough time, especially as the sole provider for a family.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tough waters to wade because there's a lot of uncertainty and because we don't know what the higher powers are going to be doing, namely our government. We see a lot of things in the news and whatnot. And I think it's muddied a lot by people's personal goals and objectives. Something like you posted the other day talking about all the pork in their proposals and whatnot, and it's like, man, let's figure this out. So, and I know there was it's not funny, but there was a person that died because they ingested something that had that malaria drug. It was one of the ingredients in what they consumed because they thought that it would make them better. Well, it ended up killing them. So, because it was fish tank, the fish tanks that you have at your house, the cleaner, it was fish tank cleaner. I'm like, well, come on, man. Like, dude, like, all right, check it out. I get it. It's sad that they died, but dude, who's gonna drink fish tank cleaner? Not this guy. I'm gonna take my chances on that one. I'm not drinking fish tank cleaner. Come on, I got a little more sense than that.
And that goes back to the fallout. Like, I think good leaders should lead, and there's going to be casualties of war. There's going to be negative ripple effect. But if a good leader leads, sometimes just the message he's portraying to, appease the masses and keep them calm. So some of the hysteria that I see a lot of the local leaders creating is causing, like, people that make poor decisions in life already make more poor decisions. So they need good leadership to say, like, hey, we got this. Like, we know there's, things that are out of our control, but the things we can control, this is what we recommend doing. Right now, it's just like sheer panic out there. And we see it everywhere. I'll say this though. I have never seen a collective, like, time frame of, like, the memes that are on Facebook and different social platforms.
Oh my gosh.
My wife and I have just been dying over these things. Like, the creativity in these people, like, they should be comedians or some kind of writers of sorts. Like, it's hysterical.
Yeah, if nothing else, we get good memes out of this, out of this tragedy. So I'll send you one after this is over with. I don't know if you're familiar with Terry or not on the YouTube. It's this dude, he's in his little electric scooter, and he's lighting off fireworks, and he's like, back it up, Terry, back it up. Dude, it's hilarious. My wife showed that to me, and I about died laughing. Like, it's so funny. You gotta, in tough times, you gotta joke. We've talked about it before where, going through tough times throughout training, throughout life, you got to sit back and laugh a little bit because that brings a little bit of joy in your life and happiness to take your mind off of all the chaos. Because, dude, I went to the grocery store today to pick up some stuff, nothing, like crazy or anything, but a lot of the shelves are still empty, and it's just people are freaking out. I'm like, dude, come on. It's not that big a deal. What's going to happen if all this blows over and they've got 700 pounds of meat in their freezers and then it goes bad?
Oh man, can't even feed the homeless with that meat. So one of my favorite memes, and this is sorry if you're part of the 101st. I apologize ahead of time. I don't mean to hurt your feeling too bad. There was one that said, "What's the difference between coronavirus and the 101st?" And the punchline was, "Coronavirus is airborne."
Oh,
I was like, "Ooh, that's
zing!"
There was another one I saw last night. It said, "Corona isn't Trump's fault. Ebola wasn't Obama's. SARS wasn't Bush's, and only a handful of cases of herpes was Clinton's."
Oh my God! Oh man, that is good. That is
Dude,
a good one.
that was rich. I had to share that with the group.
Oh my God!
So I get this. Sometimes I get these things. I'll see them, and I'm like, I got a bad sense of humor, like almost any other military guy, right? So my wife,
Oh,
like, she laughs at some of it, but I'm like, I'm in tears. Like I can't stop myself. Like I'm rolling around laughing, and she like laughs for a second, then she quits, and then she's like looking at me like, "Are you an idiot? Like this is not that funny." But
but it is. But it
man,
is
too good.
because it's true.
It is true. It's unfortunate that we're making fun of him. There's another one I saw with like Homer Simpson running around and had National Guard thing on there, and there's like, go into your home and remain inside, or you will be forced to take action. And they're like look at him as he drove away, and he says, "What did he say?" He goes, "I don't know, something about being gay." I was like, oh, it's bad, but it's typical military response to that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a National Guard one too. I can't remember what it is now. It was hilarious though. It was amazing. Amazing. People's ability to pull memes out, man. It's amazing. Like some of the podcasts I listen to, they call it Kung Flu Virus, Lung Pao Sicken, and all these different. Dude, it's hilarious. I think it's awesome.
Oh man. Actually, one of the podcasts I listened to on The Secret to Success, I don't know if they're going to actually do it or not, but he had called a segment of like, just go to bed. Did we talk about this yet?
No.
So anyways, he had talked about, the things kids say that you don't necessarily want to address yet because they're not age appropriate. So he's like, just go to bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had this moment similar to that. We were at McDonald's with my boys, and stop me if I told you already. But anyways, we're at McDonald's and we're talking about some stuff, and maybe a couple weeks ago now, before the lobbies were shut down. And we were talking, and one of my boys asked me about our current president and that he wasn't very good. And I'm like, interesting. I wonder where he got that information from.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a weird term he used. And I'm like, it seems like a talking point of sorts, right? Something in maybe the school system, whatever. And then my other kid asked me, "Hey, Dad, who was the worst president we had?" And I started thinking for a minute. And before I responded, he says, "What was the president that wouldn't let black kids and white kids drink from the same water fountain and go to the same school?" And he started breaking these things down, and he literally has his finger out. He's like, that president that wouldn't let black kids and brown kids and other kids go to the same school. And he was like, he's 7. Yeah, 7.
Dang.
And he's totally like emotional about it and like animated. And people around me are like getting quieter. It's like pressure starts to rise. Like, what do you do? Right. Anyway, so I responded appropriately and talked about segregation and about, we had our blunders in our country. And
Mm-hmm.
I think because of Black History Month, they just passed, they're probably talking about these things. But the weird thing is like some negative looks I got as I was talking about this. So I didn't ask them like, "Hey, why are you so angry about me responding appropriately to that?" To me, that's a good inquisitive question for a kid to ask.
Yeah, 100%.
He's talking about real issues, and he asked like rebuttal questions, and like I would tell him this, and he would ask a question that was appropriate, for my response. So I guess I was impressed, like his ability to understand, a pretty dynamic and deep conversation at a young age.
Yeah, I've never had a conversation like that yet with my daughter, but I'm sure it's going to come at some point. But I mean, those are good questions because they need to know the history of the U.S. and things like that. I think it's a good topic to discuss with them, especially because their little minds are trying to wrap around that topic or that conversation, and they don't fully understand. As adults, we understand why things have happened in the past, and so I may have heard it from in school, like you said, from Black History Month and whatnot.
Well, yeah, I think um, one of his best friends down the street is he's a black kid. And he's an awesome little kid. He's athletic. He's fun to be around. He's got some challenges, just other things in his life, not anything to do with his race. Just so we've had to kind of put some guardrails up there. Sometimes he's can be a little hyperactive, if you will, and I noticed that sometimes when my kid hangs out with him, he comes home with some bad behaviors. But I mean, the family's a good family, and he's a good kid. And but he asks questions that are kind of tough to answer at certain ages because it's hard to really go into detail. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to give him the reality of life. Sometimes it's not as easy as you would hope it'd be when they ask those hard questions.
No, that'd be a tough spot. I'd have to sit back and really take a moment to think about that and then answer appropriately. But that's like Kaya. She experienced the death of her grandfather, so she dealt with reality, with life there. So she's gotten a little bit of a taste of what life is, and that's the first person that she's been close to that's died around her, and so. Although it's sad and tragic and everything, it's a life lesson, man. We don't all live forever, unfortunately, on this earth. So
no. And speaking of that, I don't know if you heard or not, but last night we lost a trooper. So I worked in the area for a while, run into him a couple of times. I did not by any means, wasn't close to him. Doesn't take the seriousness of what happened away, but. He, from what I gathered from some other individuals that were on the scene, there was a pursuit that the county had been in. This particular trooper went to deploy a set of spike strips, and the suspect vehicle struck and killed him. So anyways, all that being said, it's one of those things, a young kid, his life taken way too quickly. And I got to thinking, I don't know what the original reason for the pursuit was from the county, but I know I've been in many pursuits, whether me being the primary officer or in support of other officers. But oftentimes the original reason for the pursuit was so ridiculous, like a taillight out, and you're chasing this guy. And I think, I actually terminated multiple pursuits on my own because I'm realizing the seriousness of the crime of the original reason for the stop. It didn't really outweigh the threat to myself, the suspect individual, and or community as at large. But I got to thinking yesterday, like, for what? This guy's dead for even if it was like a drug felony case, a guy's dead over it now. I'm not saying I'm against pursuits, but it makes you kind of stop and question, like, why are we doing what we're doing?
Yeah, that is a huge tragedy, and like you said, that a lot of times it's just something small and minor that they're getting pulled over for, and they're like, nope, I'm running from the cops, and they themselves could be high or whatever, in whatever state of mind, and then they go and do something like that. I mean, if he is caught, which I don't know if he is or not, but I'm sure he's going to be he's in some major trouble now. Not just a minor traffic violation. It's a manslaughter, or you killed an officer. So that's not going to go over well.
Yeah, they definitely caught him last night. They ended up having an arms standoff. SWAT came out, and he did surrender to them last night. I don't know all the details, but all that being said, yeah, he's definitely facing a litany of charges now. Whereas before, if he just stopped it, like I said, it probably would have been pretty minor in nature. But people are wired. It's a fallen humanity, right? Like, we're dealing with evil people, and then people make bad decisions. So it's just sad that other people that are trying to do good for the community end up suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's no reason that that officer should have been killed. That's terrible. I would hate to have to go out that way. Not a good deal.
No, it's horrific. And that goes into like some of the topics of like what we're seeing in the mass hysteria for this corona nonsense. Like, people are dying around us regardless, and we're not giving much attention to the other things like that. And we probably never will. At scale like we see with this right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I don't know how accurate this number is, but every day there's, I don't know, over across the world, I guess there's about 7,000 people that die. I don't know if that was the U.S. or the world, but I don't know if that number is accurate or not. But I know there's hundreds that die, on a daily basis for small reasons, nothing big, or maybe a suicide, maybe a drug overdose or whatnot. but it's not televised as much. It's unfortunately right now the corona's got everybody's ears and everybody's attention. So the news is constantly gonna be running, and to me, all I see is negativity, and it's like if all you do is watch that, yeah, I mean, I'd probably be freaking out too, but I don't watch that. I don't have cable. I choose not to look at that because it puts me in the wrong mindset.
Sure.
Why would I set myself up for failure? Yeah, and I don't need to raise my blood pressure starting early in the morning just because I see some stupid stuff on television. It's cool to stay abreast of what's going on and get information, but get information from reliable sources, not the news media that bends and twists everything to fit their agenda and whatever they can do to get more viewers and more money. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's spot on. Yesterday I talked to a guy. He's a realtor in Michigan, and he's usually like a source of inspiration and hope and positivity. And I asked him, I was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I was doing good." He's like, "Until I got into social media," and you can just like hear in his tone. I'm like, I hear you, but at the same time, like to me, if I can inject positivity wherever I go, someone might not receive it right away, but I'm giving more positivity than I'm taking, for one. And two, I'm not soaking up the negativity because I'm the one pushing positivity into my circles. So that's where I'm at now, is like, in the light of all this negativity, all this, hostility and hysteria, I'm seeing so many good things come out of this. And I mean, some of the news is actually starting to portray even like construction companies and whatnot, manufacturers donating masks to hospitals and clinics to, help make sure that our medical professionals are being, protected, and then like my neighbor the other day, he's new to the area, talked to him a couple of times, and I was cleaning my trailer after we went camping, and we were chatting, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, if you guys need food, TP, whatever you need, like let us know. We got stuff. Like we can share, I don't even know the guy. And he was
Wow.
willing to, give stuff away to make sure his neighbors had something. That's something you don't see every day. We don't celebrate those small victories. But to me, that was like the best of humanity on display. He doesn't know who I am hardly, but he's willing to sacrifice if we needed something. And his wife echoed it immediately, like, "Yeah, like do not hesitate. Come on over." And that's stuff we need to start celebrating on a daily basis, of that kind of stuff at scale.
Yeah, I think not only celebrate that, but also act upon that, and pay that forward. Be that beacon of light for somebody. Excuse me. Like I put up or shared a post about a fire department in Little Rock. They had a sign off the interstate, letting the truckers know, hey, if you're hungry, if you need food or whatever, just pull over. It's all free. You can come in for a free meal and whatnot, and this and that and the other. And I'm like, man, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
There are really good people out there, and I don't think they're highlighted enough.
Exactly.
And I think people could take a lesson from your neighbor and do the same in their community, and help others where you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So I know you had mentioned some stuff that you're kind of going through right now and talking about, like, we've touched on this before, but the idea of bandwidth. I know we kind of wanted to dive into that for a few minutes today. What are your original thoughts when you're kind of, what's on your heart and mind on that?
I wish I could regurgitate what we talked about on the phone, because that sounded really good and everything. And I just need to record those or something. No, so
Just send it live, bro. Just send it.
send it live. No, I don't want to say I've been going through a difficult time. I've just been going through times. I think those are normal with post transition, or after military, getting out of the military and whatnot. It's just my bandwidth was focused in one direction, and it took a while for me to realize, like, hey man, I need to back off in this one direction, and then go back to center and see where my bandwidth is going, and then divvy it up accordingly and give it to give that bandwidth to the people that need it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just giving it all in one direction. So yeah, I was getting burned out, and I needed to take some time to just kind of take a step back and relax a little bit and do some things at home. So the coronavirus thing came in at a good time, I guess. I've been at home. I've been doing yard work and getting a lot of stuff done around the house, and been able to go to the range a couple times and things like that, and hopefully go fishing soon. And so just really just trying to focus and make good decisions daily based on the bandwidth that I do have, because all the struggles that I had while I was in the military, those are all still there. They haven't gone away. Nothing goes away just like that, just because you leave the military. Some things have gotten better, but there's still, things that I struggle with and whatnot. So it's a daily thing, but um, trying to focus on the right people and focus on my family first, and then focus on myself and do things for myself, which is sometimes in a way kind of hard to do, I guess, because sometimes we want to be selfish, but I almost feel bad for being selfish. So it's kind of, it's a balance there with all that, but at least I'm getting a lot of schoolwork done now. So all of it's online. So we're able to do some schoolwork, and I loathe math. So that's always a struggle. But for some reason, I like geometry. I don't know why, but that's the only math I like, so maybe because it's applicable to what I do. It's applicable in, welding and fabricating and things like that. So to me, that's interesting more than, all these algebraic or trigonometry or all this other crap that just.
So I want to touch on that real quick, but then dive into the deeper issue we're talking about. Really is, that math stuff. I was the same way in school, and nor do I use that every day here. It's not 100% applicable, but at the same time, I am realizing now different areas of study, like certain math equations that you think like, what the heck am I going to do with this? Mm-hmm. It may not be like 100% clear that you're using it, but every single day our bodies are so, call it three-dimensional, if you will. You filter information through your brain. And to me, some of that stuff actually does matter a lot more than we think it does, because our brains are so complex. So you might be doing something that has nothing to do with trigonometry, but somehow that information you absorbed there is actually allowing you to make different decisions down the road. It's kind of crazy. It's one of those things I'm starting to realize now. I kind of wish I paid more attention in high school and even my college classes. Can I get a do-over? Mulligan?
Not really.
So, but then going back to the deeper issue, like, we talked before about the power of why. So like when you're doing things, if you're, way overexerting and you're way over leveraging the time you do have into different areas, and you don't ask the question of why am I doing these things, mm-hmm. You might be doing it for the wrong reason. And then when you only have a certain amount of time in a day, and the things you fill with the time, the items that maybe not even bad things, but maybe not for you, but you're doing it. And like for me, just for a case study is example, there's certain things in the job I work now that I'll take on that I probably shouldn't. And I think some of it has to do with insecurity. Like I'm trying to build myself up for whatever reason. I don't know where it comes from. It's not like they're saying like, you're a bad employee, you don't work hard. I know I work hard. But the fact of the matter is I still have these insecurities for whatever reason. So I take these tasks on. So when I do them, I regret saying yes, because I'm already too busy on a lot of days. So I take the task on, so I'm already regretting it. And then the task itself becomes toxic. I get negative in the process. Probably, I'm not saying I don't, but I can probably see there's probably not the same quality that I'd put in there than somewhere else. And then the fulfillment I get when I'm done isn't quite the same. Whereas if there's an area where I know I should be focusing on it and I have a task to do, I complete the task, I don't feel near as stressed out during it. I feel more fulfilled when I'm done doing it. So just the whole process is it's either very toxic and it pays out dividends one direction or the other. But so I think, talking to you now and hearing this, I know we've talked through it a couple of times now, you having to step back and understand why are you doing what you're doing. And then like you said, if it's for your wife or your child, like these things are important and triage them accordingly. And the other things, maybe you have to say no, and it's not easy, but maybe that's where you have to start saying no.
Yeah, that is one thing that always resonates. Like I keep hearing it in the back of my mind. At some point, I have to say no. I can't say yes to everything, and so I did say yes to. My neighbor asked me the other day. His dad lives with him. He asked me like, "Hey, do you know anything about motorcycles or working on engines and whatnot for motorcycles?" And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I do. That's what I did before I joined the military. I was a certified Honda mechanic. He's like, really? So he had a scooter that wasn't running, and this and that and the other, and I took a look at it. It was something simple. I cleaned out the carburetor, cleaned out the tank, things whatnot. Got it running and everything, and runs just fine. And part of me was like, no, I don't want to do it because that's just another thing to add to my list. I've got a long laundry list of things to do, but the guy has MS. He's an older guy. It's hard for him to move around and whatnot. And I'm like, you know what? No big deal. I'm going to do it. It's probably nothing major. So, and it took a couple hours of work. And then he was up and running again, but I almost said no, but this was one of those things that I felt, good about afterwards. I was glad that I was able to do that for him, and he's got another one that he needs work done on it. So I told him in time. I said, hey man, I prefaced, said, hey, look, I've got a lot of things going on right now, so I won't be able to get to it just yet. But yeah, I'll get to it. And he's like, okay, no worries. So.
But that goes back to like, it's not just about like saying no to tasks or items. It's like understanding why do them or why not do them. So to me, maybe this is my conviction, not yours. So take it with a grain of salt. I believe we all should be giving. It's better to give than to receive. That's my belief system. Maybe not yours, but I truly believe if you're giving, it's going to fill your tank as well. So to me, if you take like 10% of your life and say, I'm going to give 10% away to service. It could be through, picking up trash on side of the road. It could be helping your neighbor with the scooter, whatever it is. You're giving, and that's actually filling you. You're gonna like get returned more to you than you give. Like it's gonna fill your tank. So I do think we should be literally allocating parts of our days, parts of our weeks, parts of our months to make sure we are planning in our days or whatever, like strategically areas where we have time to serve. Because I think that actually fills your tank, and I think it's vital for ourselves and our communities to thrive. So that's different to me, a little bit different than like, occupation or even family type stuff. It's, extended family type activities, or even personal stuff maybe that you have to cut back on to make sure you can allocate giving time.
And I feel like sometimes there's people that say yes to different tasks or whatever it is because they're trying to avoid certain people or certain situations. Like they want to be immersed in their work because that's where they, I guess, feel more comfortable, and they may have some struggles at home that they're dealing with, and so they're always at work. They're always working. They say yes to everything, and I think that'll drain your tank more than anything. And you're absolutely correct. Giving back, give back to the community, give back to whomever. I called actually today. I called the Red Cross and they weren't answering, but I want to start trying to donate on the regular my blood because I'm O positive, and that's the universal. So I figured, hey, why not? I mean, my body makes it, so why not? I'm only alive for so long. I might as well give some blood. So figured that was a good way to start, kind of, because I'm trying to figure out how can I give back, but also allocate my bandwidth to, my priorities, my family, myself, but then also allocate some time for things like that, to not for personal praise or personal pleasure or personal gain or anything like that, but just because that's what I feel like I need to do.
And I think you should understand too, though, when you do things, like if you do them and they're good things, you should be filled with those items, right? So if you're giving blood, like that's a good thing, and it's not take a ton of time, ton of energy, or ton of like resources. It's like you said, it's renewable, in reason or within reason.
Yeah.
So that being said, I think you should feel good. You should walk away feeling like a better person and filled. Otherwise, why would you do it? I mean, honestly. So every thankless thing we do ultimately does come back to you, and it maybe not in a financial or maybe you don't get that time back, but there is a fulfillment that happens. There's a transaction that takes place.
And just like mom always told us, Jesus is watching. So whatever you do, Jesus is watching. So
Jesus is watching.
Jesus is watching. He watches you all the time. So I wish he didn't sometimes, but we don't get to choose that. So
you know what, though? Even if you don't believe in Jesus, just because he sees you don't think you should be doing it, he believes in forgiveness, people. Come on, y'all.
Yeah, y'all. If not, we could put Santa Claus in there or something. I don't know. Whatever. Santa Claus is watching. He may not bring you anything good for Christmas this year. Bring you a bag of coal. That might go against what the Democrats might not like that. Because coal, that's
it's not renewable.
No, it's I'm lost for the word right now.
It's a fossil fuel?
Yeah, fossil fuel. There we go. Simple words. Sometimes I have trouble with simple words.
You know what? We all can't be winners. So
No.
this, what was I going to say? Oh, you talked about like, how to start like triaging these things. And I don't know if this is a solution for you, but just a example. I've used a couple different now, but one I'm on right now is that I think it's called 10X. It's by Grant Cardone. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially it breaks it down, like essentially like writing your own mission statement out in a sense, like, writing these things out literally daily, putting your goals, like what's my long-term, what's my week goal, and getting things out in front of me. So when things come up throughout the day, if someone says, can you do this? Well, does it meet these thresholds of like my daily why? And if it doesn't, I probably should say no, or
Mm-hmm.
at least take a long, tactical pregnant pause, if you will, and evaluate. Otherwise, our canned response, think about in the military, a sergeant yells, hey, give me one. If every 30 swinging dick isn't running his direction, like they're in hot water, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
almost built into your DNA just to say yes, like yes, like yes, yes. Like, and that's in certain environments, that's good. But to live your life daily, I realized I was living that way, and I was driving my wife and myself like literally insane.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it. Like a good behavior in the wrong environment is a recipe for a very toxic disaster.
Yeah, and it can be good behavior, but it can also really bring struggles into the home life. Yeah, and no, I'll definitely check that out. You'll have to send me a link because I'm trying to, as I have the time now, I'm thinking a lot and thinking about how to organize everything as far as what I need to do and when it needs to be done by, and then making myself meet that hard line or that hard time or that time hack, if you will, military term. That way, I'm holding myself accountable versus just like, yeah, I'll get to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
So,
two, to put measurable goals out in front of you, like literally, like write it down, saying like this week I want to accomplish these things, and then this month I want to accomplish these things, and then like areas to develop. Like I want to develop like this skill set. So I suck at algebra or whatever it is. Like I want to work on these skill sets. So you put measurable things out in front of you. So it's a metric based system. So then you can work backwards to say, what do I need to accomplish that? And then it's very like when you see it, that you can check these things off. Hey, I accomplished this. That's a good feeling. Like that cycle is good. It's a good behavior to get into. And I'm not saying like my plans for everybody or even for you,
yeah.
but it's a plan.
Yeah, it's a plan. A plan is better than not having a plan at all. And I will admit that there's days where I'm like, man, I don't want to have a plan. Like I want to wake up when I wake up, and
Mm-hmm.
I just some days I don't want to do anything. And part of that has been I think part of that problem is my sleep. My sleep is off again for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on, but my sleep is crap, and that really affects everything else. And just like Pan said, sleep is so important, and it can affect everything you do and everybody around you. And so I think that's the first thing to focus on is the sleep, and then get that in order. At least get it under control a little bit more manageable, and
Mm-hmm.
then really start structuring. Because I mean, I had structure. I have structure. Go to school, go to work, things like that. Go to the fly fishing meetings. So there's some structure. But now that everything is on lockdown, obviously it's kind of like laid back. But it does give me an opportunity to kind of take a break, relax a little bit, do some fun things that I enjoy, and then work around the house. Sometimes it's enjoyable, sometimes it's not. Especially
Mm-hmm.
when it's hot outside, then I don't like it so much. So.
Come to Washington, bro. It barely gets hot here.
I know. No, I would love to come up to Washington. There's a lot of people I need to see up there.
Dude, there's a house for sale down the street. I'm just saying, it's a good environment. It's a good community. Dude, there's Elkin nearby.
And dude, I wish if I could afford it, I would buy it right now. I'd
Yeah,
buy it right now, and
it's expensive right now. That's for sure.
yeah, and I'd buy a plane so that I could just fly out there.
But hey, you talked about going, like, you want to sometimes not have a plan. You want to just sleep or get up when you need to. Like, and I'm not saying that you can't do that. And in fact, I would say even further than that. Sometimes we do things, but in the process, you're almost feeling guilty. Like, so you're not even enjoying it, but you're doing it anyways. So what if you planned out your week to know, like, hey, it's going to be stressful days here, here, and here. So these other 2 days, I'm going to literally plan on doing nothing. Literally, that's your plan. Your plan is to do nothing. So then on those given days, like you built your week out to be successful. But in part of that success plan is to have a couple off days where you're literally going to have cheat days on your health or diet, whatever. Like to plan those days ahead of time to be kind of inconsistent. So it's consistently inconsistent, and I think to me that's a good thing.
Yeah, so I go back to the DONZA, day of no scheduled activities that we
Hmm.
had in the military, and or you go out to formation in PT and they yell zonk, and you've never seen people run so fast. And
I
so
felt good. I felt good just hearing that, by the way.
doesn't it, like, that's the zonk? It's the greatest word ever. You hear that and you're like, yes, thank God. Um, But no, I can agree with that, and I guess I'm kind of partially putting those in there. Like, I'm
Mhm.
going to go to the range tomorrow morning. I assembled. I got a new barrel for one of my guns, and so I'm going to go and zero it, see how it shoots and whatnot, and just kind of let everything go there and focus really on just shooting and just kind of let everything else that's going on in the world go away, which
Mhm.
helps a lot, man. Like, I've actually been shooting quite a bit lately, and it's awesome. I love it, and so I've been trying to get more into my reloading and get all my stuff organized and start doing that stuff again. And I'd love to start woodworking, all that stuff. But dude, I want to do everything, but I don't have time for it, unfortunately. So I have to kind of prioritize somewhat. So
Yeah, no, I hear that stuff, and I'm like, I'm glad you're building that into your day, and I'm kind of convicted some because, I got young kids still that really want a lot of me time, like with
mhm.
dad, and it's good. Like I love the fact they want that, but there's still that point of like you talked about, you want to be selfish, but you can't. That's an area where I still kind of struggle on the me self care or whatever you want to call it, like even taking time to work out. If you have X amount of hours in a day, I start my day pretty early and go. I mean, some days get home, do the family stuff, and then go to work in the evening again sometimes, just trying to get things done. And I have to do a better job there of taking care of myself, so I don't, like, when I hang out with the kids and play with them, sometimes I almost feel like kind of, not sure the right term for this is, but like um, kind of resent the time in a sense, because like I kind of wish I was able
Mhm.
to do these other things, like maybe go shooting once a month, and I haven't done that kind of stuff. Or I really want to do that project, for the project Healing Waters, and I haven't
Mhm.
committed to those kind of things yet because I'm like, I know it's going to take away from family time. And so that's an area where I probably should have someone hold me accountable to say what is a reasonable amount of time to have for yourself. um, and my wife is supportive. She, obviously wants me to be successful too, but it's going back to probably an insecurity. Like I don't feel like I have the ability to do that right now, and I'm not sure where that's
Mhm.
driven from. But
Well, so if you break it down, what would happen if you took 3 hours a month, let's say 3 to 5 hours, and went and shot or went and did whatever? You block out that time. You talk about blocking out your time. Hey, I'm busy this day, this day, this day, but this day I've blocked out. I've looked. There's not a big family thing going on. The boys don't have anything. The wife doesn't have anything. I'm gonna block out this time for 3 hours. I'm gonna go shoot. I'm gonna do dry fire drills. I'm gonna do malfunctions. I'm gonna go fishing. I'm gonna do whatever. You take out that time, and it's you say, hey, this is the time, this is the day, and this is what's gonna happen. Everything ceases at that moment unless there's obviously an emergency in the
mhm.
family or something like that. But would you be able to do that? Take 3 hours.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is like blocking it out, one, and then secondly is communicating that. And I've done a horrible job in the past of kind of waiting till last second to like, it'll work, and then I'll commit to it, and then I'll tell my wife, and that's usually where it's like, then I get this stress feeling of like, is it going to be like received well, and like then it's almost I put it on her, like it's her fault if I don't go. So it just adds this extra layer, but it's not her fault at all. It's like I did a bad job communicating. So how would you feel if like a day prior to an event, someone just tells you, "Hey, I got to go do this," or your spouse says, "I have to go do this," or "I'm going to go do this." Like you want to say yes or whatever, but it's nice to have some prep time if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the key in that is prep time. You schedule that ahead of time in advance. Like, hey, on the third Saturday or whatever day it is you pick, I'm going to take 3 hours, and then I'm
Hmm.
going to go. I'm going to go do whatever. I'm going to woodwork. I'm going to metal work. I'm going to build model cars. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to weave a basket. Whatever it is that you want to do to decompress. I think that is something that really is needed. And I'm preaching to the choir right here. I'm pointing right at myself. I need to do those things, which is why I'm making it a point. Which is why also, like I talked about the other day, I kind of don't want to put a lot on my shoulders right now because I'm enjoying not having that much on my shoulders and being able to go out and fish and shoot,
Mhm.
do things like that, because I feel like it's regenerating me a little bit. And so, yeah, I might not make the amount of money that everybody else is, but my bills are paid and everything like that. My family is good. So why not take a little time for yourself to enjoy life and regenerate, recharge your batteries? Because if you don't, when your batteries are gone, then what happens? It can lead to dark roads, whether it be
100%. 100% agree.
and that and and I know that there's some people listening out there that have experienced dark times in their lives, and I hope that those persons are listening right now, because Jordan and I have gone through a lot of hard times and a lot of difficult times in our own lives, and I've struggled with addiction, and it was a very, very dark road. And so coming away from that and now not being addicted to alcohol anymore, it's still a struggle. Doesn't make it any better, any easier. It's I just don't do it anymore. But I feel like I'm a better person now. And so I have to be cognizant of what I'm doing, because if I put myself in an environment where people are drinking all the time, or because it's a social thing. I get it. It's everywhere. But if I take myself away, if I minimize my exposure to those things that drain my batteries, then my batteries will not be drained.
Hmm.
Now you have to be careful when you're at home. Like, hey, then your mind wanders and you start to think, you get bored, and you're like, well, I'm going to start drinking because I'm bored. So you have to occupy your mind, occupy your hands, and so I mean that's what works for me. Like, even if I'm outside working or raking leaves or chopping wood or in the shop sorting brass, like it keeps my mind busy, it keeps my mind occupied, and it keeps me from my battery getting to critical low and reaching those times where I turn to things that I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, you make some phenomenal points, and I had a conversation with um, somebody pretty close to me about some of this stuff that they're struggling in, and kind of mentioned like throughout the day they're fine, and then there's a point of time when there's excess time at home in the evening times where it's like there's these struggles that just seem to appear out of nowhere. It's not like they're actively seeking for them, but there's this time that's available, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not always filled with the best of objects, if you will, whatever. So, I mentioned I'm not a great planner. I've never been, but that's where I'm trying to get this year. I've been actually the best I've ever been in my life of writing things down and making plans and executing on them. I'm an idea guy. I'm an artist type mind. Like that's who I am, kind
Mm-hmm.
of like all over the place. So I need more structure to actually execute on what I need to do, vocationally or family wise. But so I kind of talked to him about the same stuff, and I'm like, hey, what do you do to set up your day? Like, he's like, well, I usually just get up, go to work, come home, and it's kind of the rinse, wash, repeat, whatever you want to call that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I had mentioned to him too, like, what do you think about if there's a 3 hour window that you've always kind of had these struggles, then why don't you fill that time with something good, something positive? So you're filling the void, like you said, raking leaves, cutting wood. Like, what if you do that for a senior citizen? Now you're giving back, you're filling yourself, and you're also filling that time. And then over time, maybe you can start building other systems. So you could be at home and not feel like you have the urge to drink or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not a judgment thing. Like we all go through, we all have our seasons, we all have our vices, but just to identify that like there is a vulnerable spot here. Like you talked about bandwidth, everything in life comes down to making, these small decisions, but the small decisions add up. So
Yes. Yeah, they do, and a lot of times I think, myself included, you have that window of opportunity, and if you don't have something already planned for that, like, hey, if I get bored, this is what I'm going to do. You could go play video games, or I've heard a lot of people tie flies for fly fishing, and they don't fly fish whatsoever. They don't even own a fly rod. They just tie flies. I'm dead serious. Like, it's one of those things that they're like, dude, I just started doing it, and it's very therapeutic for them, because they're just sitting there tying flies. It's very intricate. They can make very detailed, beautiful flies, and a lot of times they just give them away. But at the end of the day, they're really having to focus on that particular fly, like with the different strands that they put on there, the different feathers, or the different accents and whatnot.
mhm.
And I've seen some very intricate flies, and I mean, people have found a lot of healing and a lot of, I guess, good vibes from doing that. And so I forgot to mention it to you on at our last meeting that we had, fly fishing. We did a raffle. So for the participants, they just have some things, and I won a fly tying kit. So I have the fly tying base, the vise, and everything. So I have all the stuff now. I just need to get some hooks, and get some of the materials, and then just start tying flies. Like some guys, they say that they'll tie maybe one fly a day. They'll maybe tie 10 of them, depending on how bad their day was. Some guys will sit there and tie flies for like 3 hours, and they're like, "Man, I feel so much better." So, not saying that he should go out and spend the money on all that stuff, but hey, find something that you're interested in. Build Legos. I don't know. I love Legos. I enjoy building Legos. I think they're awesome
They are
because,
fun.
yeah, exactly. I'm a big kid, so but my thing is I also enjoy working on mechanical things like that guy's scooter. Like it keeps sharpening my skills. It keeps my
Hmm.
skills alive, and just like the dirt bike that I'm rebuilding. I mean, it is in as many pieces as you can put it right now, and it's if I showed it to you, you'd be like, "What is that?" That's a dirt bike. Here, and hopefully the next year, I'll post a picture of it, and I'll be like, "What in the world is that?" That's a brand new dirt bike, basically. So, um, that's been completely done from front to rear. So, to me, that's therapeutic for me. I really enjoy those kinds of things, and working with metal is a lot of fun too.
And that's one thing too. I know some guys have access to like machine shops or woodworking shops, and obviously that's awesome. But it doesn't always take that, like you said, even fly fishing or Legos. Like you don't have to have a lot of money to go and buy a $12 set of Legos, or probably even cheaper from a garage sale. But yeah, those are some very, very valid points. And I think going back to like, if you take 24 hours in every single day and you break it down and you start maybe for a while even, so you spend a month or whatever that it was, I think it's like they say 30 days or something to start building a habit.
Mhm.
So start there. Literally take your planner out and know that you have 24 hours in a day. Hopefully by your 30s and 40s, how many, or 20s even, you should know about how much sleep you need in your body,
Mhm.
for your body to be feeling well rested and to acclimate to life. But so, build that in, like, I need 7 hours of sleep, and then you literally start penciling in how much time I have for each item, and do that for a
Mhm.
month, and just see where you have your most waste time. Because a lot of times you're like, oh, I'm always so busy. But honestly, we all waste a shit ton of time. At the end of the day, every
Mhm.
one of us. And I know the
Yep.
busiest of people around me, like, and I'm a perfect culprit of that. There's a lot of waste in my days. Not every day, but I
Mhm.
know if I start like breaking it down. In fact, some days I like to work from home because there's less distractions there.
Mhm.
And sometimes like the actual owners of the company, and they're phenomenal dudes. I love spending time with them, but it's like, man, it actually stresses me out because I'm actually filling that time with, fun conversation, but it's maybe not the most appropriate use of my time. And they're not like, they're not angry at me or anything like that, but it's like, I
Mhm.
know that it's not well used time. So anyways, my point is if you start breaking your day out, take 24 hours and start piecemealing things you have to do, vital items, occupational type stuff, and then find out where you have your time, your swap time. And then literally, like, if you like want to learn a new language, or like I've been reading a lot more. So I've been trying to, instead of watching TV in the evenings, at least 3 nights a week, go and read a book.
Mhm.
Um, it's just small, tweaks or incremental changes that make a huge difference down the road. But after 30 days, you literally build new habits into your life. And me, I'm going to hopefully still use my planners always loosely, but you probably be able to dump your planner and be fine. But it doesn't take a ton of energy, but it can definitely radically change your world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'll be the first one to admit it. I waste a lot of time in a day too. I watch television. There's some shows that we watch and whatnot. I play video games and things like that, and I could probably better use my time doing other things. But I don't know. I'm pretty happy. But me too. I've been trying to read that book, The Body Keeps the Score. So
Hmm.
today, when I was at the chiropractor, I was getting my physical therapy done, the eStem. I was able to read it there, and I was, able to dive into it, and it's very interesting. So I've only, a few pages in or whatnot, a few chapters in, but it's very good. So, and reading is good as it is, anyways. Reading is good for you. Some people are not readers. Find something else. There's a lot of very inexpensive things that you can do out there that will occupy your time, take your mind off of everything. That's really what it is. There's no magic recipe. There's no magic anything. It's really taking your mind off of what struggles you have for a moment to take a step back and occupy your mind. Make it, instead of having that habit. of, hey, I'm going to get home from work, and then 30 minutes after I'm home from work, I'm going to drink until I go to bed type deal. Well, if you interrupt that cycle, especially for a month, then it starts to become a habit. And then every day you come home from work, you eat food, you do whatever, you do your thing, and then you start reading, or you start tying flies, or you start, woodworking, or you whittle, or whatever it is that you're doing, making Legos, whatever it is, that becomes your habit. And then you're going to start replacing all that bad behavior with better behavior. Those problems are still there. If you're still having problems or you're still having struggles with something, go seek help. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And that everybody needs help. We need someone to help explain it to us. Like, hey, why am I having these thoughts? Why am I feeling this way? It's because of this. And then that's my answer to that.
No, that's spot on. And, honestly, if you talk about like these problems, like you talked about filling that, negativity time or bad things to good things, you transition. So it's not a huge difference, as far as time in your life, but the void of, work or family stuff, you have 2 hours, you fill with these positive reinforcement type things. Your focus is there. Whereas before, if you were drinking or just kind of, sulking in life in general, just kind of being there, being a vegetable, you spend time and you give energy and you give power to these problems. So the problems are still real on both ends of the spectrum. But my theory is the more power you give it by the more time you give it and you're dedicating energy to it, it's going to keep building in your mind. That issue that might not have been that big a deal, you've amplified it by, X amount because you're giving it the energy. So fill your time with something positive. In fact, like today, I want to talk about this for a second. Is like, are we truly being appreciative of people in our world, like people that, are inspirational leaders or whoever else, like, and I guess my challenge for this week is to reach out to 3 people that, have made a difference in your life, whether it be a school teacher, a loved one, a parent, like let them know they matter. Tell them thank you. Say, I love you. Like give some, I guess in the social distancing thing, we don't want to give the hug, but give the e-hug, give the bro the e-hug. I love you, bro. Yeah. But, like feel our society with positivity and not just this hippie stuff, but like true, real stuff. People affected your life positively. Let them know. You don't know the effect you're going to have. They might be having the worst day in their life. Like you might change their world by one simple act of kindness.
Yeah, they may that might brighten their day and that might pull them out of a slump. Maybe they're in a slump. But yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great challenge, and find those 3 people that have affected you in a positive way in your life. I think that's a really good thing to take away from this episode and throughout the week to really do that. I'm definitely gonna mull over that. I mean, there's plenty of people that I can think of, but I want to try to prioritize and pick some top 3 that really have affected my life and for the better. So I'm definitely on board with that.
So I want to take it a step further then. And I appreciate you buying into that quickly with a lot of convincing there and getting mocked for it. But no,
I don't care.
On social media and other areas as well, I see a lot of like good, like they were soldiers for years. They're great leaders in the military. And then you see on Facebook and they're just sitting there griping and complaining about like the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. So yes, I think she's doing a horrible job holding, essentially American people, hostage, right? I believe she's doing a bad job stewarding her office horribly, her power horribly. But the same token, these military, even people that haven't been in the military, but they're God-given leaders, the talents they have, the skill sets they have they're leaders in general. Yet they're not doing a lot of leadership things, meaning they're griping, complaining about these other leaders and that are in the public limelight for doing bad things. But we also can be agents of change. We can also, use our powers to help lead people into positivity. Ask our neighbors if they need help. Like there's small things we can do to change this entire, like our states and our country by single acts. And it's not one time. It's many people that it takes to do that. Sure, but where does it start? And I think there's a lot of military leaders that I know that are doing a bad job using their gifts that they might have had. They weren't great. They got into the military. They were honed. They were spending years of time, in Ranger School deployments, leading troops, all that kind of stuff. And now they're phenomenal leaders. And then they get out of the military, or maybe they're still in. And honestly, they're not using that skill to the best of their ability. And I guess I want to even, myself included, I've been given a lot of skill sets the military gave me, and people like you even gave me the ability to be a better person, better leader. And I'm doing an injustice to people that gave me the ability to be a leader. If I'm not adding to the society that I live in, I'm doing an injustice. So I guess I just want to call that behavior out. That what? Yes, the Pelosi's and the Schumers and all that kind of crap. Yes, they're being horrible leaders. At the same time, what are you doing to be a good leader? I know you're not elected. That doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, and that's I've heard of, you're seeing a lot of military veterans actually join politics and get their foot in the door on politics because they see things that are not going well in their local community, and so I think that's good. I've seen a couple here in the local area that are military, former military, and they put in their name for the next election of whatever title it is. So, but no, that's a great point. And we experienced it a lot in the military where you'd have people that bitch, complain, and whatnot, and that's all they would do. And it's
Hmm.
like, well, that's all you're doing, but you're not. So how do we fix it? Well, I don't know. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, I get it. It's your First Amendment right to say whatever it is you want to say, but look, man, shut your mouth unless you got something to say. If you want to scream and yell and be negative about it, go over there to the wall and in the corner and yell. I don't care. Yell all day.
Beat your face.
Yeah, beat your face, you. No, that's a very good point because I find myself a lot of times bitching as well, and so I'm like, I should probably, instead of just complaining all the time, find positivity in something, in everything. There has to be a positive in everything somewhere.
Agreed. And when I say these things, I'm speaking of myself. Like, you don't see me, but I'm pointing an internal finger at myself. I'm guilty too, but I think we can all do a better job holding each other accountable to, like I always talk about, trying to give more than we're taking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if we would focus on other people, focus on your local community a little bit, and instead of just yourself and caring only about yourself, because once you start to care for other people and give to other people, I think that's going to actually make you. It's going to turn you into a better human being because other people are going to see that, and that's going to change someone else's life. You're gonna be able to be infectious to a large group of people that way because people are going to see that.
Hmm. Totally agree.
Most of the time, people they have the 45-degree syndrome. They're doing this. They're constantly just doing this, and everywhere you go, people are on their phones 24/7. And I'm like, man, what is so interesting that's on that thing? I mean, I don't know. I get it. I'm always on Instagram looking at guns and cars and skydiving stuff and whatnot and funny memes about coronaviruses and military and stupid stuff, which is fun and all. But there's a time and place for all that.
Yeah, I
And that
agree.
I think a lot of that's I think that's a place where people waste a lot of time right there. A lot of time is wasted. Going back to having, let's say you have a 3-hour block where it's trouble city for you, like find a place to volunteer. You know,
Hmm.
go to a soup kitchen, give people food, something. Donate your time, volunteer your time for a sports league or something like that to help coach, mentor kids. They always need that. There's always mentors, coaches needed for. You don't have to know how to play that sport. Look that stuff on YouTube. Look it up on
Hmm.
YouTube. Learn the basics of it because that's the thing. A lot of these people that they have natural ability to be a mentor or a leader, and they could go out there and do that. It's a very simple thing, but how much of a dramatic, like it'd be a dramatic impact that you can have on those kids because they see Mr. Smith over there. He works all day and then he comes over here and he spends his time with us and he's teaching me these things. He's teaching me how to play basketball, football, soccer, whatever the game is. You can have a real impact on not only the kid's life, but maybe the kid's parents' lives, the coach, other people there, spectators, whoever. They see
100% agree. 100%. Just realized what time it is. I have to get running in a minute here, but obviously we are pretty intermittent for the last how many weeks, and hopefully we can get our act together, but put a plan in place to make sure we're more consistent. I know for one, I enjoy this time. I enjoy being able to kind of work through life a little bit. And like we always talk about, if we make an effective change on one person for the better, then it's a win. And ultimately, I know I'm walking away from these opportunities to discuss these real issues. I leave a better person. So I appreciate, you and what you're doing and dedicating to, this community. So I guess to start this whole process of appreciation and positivity, that what you're pouring into me right now, and I believe it's going past me. There's other people that are essentially, I'm the avatar for them. Essentially,
Mhm.
I'm getting fueled every time we talk. Every time we do these things, I'm a better person. So I appreciate what you're doing and spending the time and energy to pour into a youngin like myself.
Yeah, absolutely. No, likewise. I appreciate this time. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your opinion and the conversation that we have. It's really good, a little bro hug. Yeah, hug it out, bro. But no, I enjoy it as well. And apparently, there's other people out there that enjoy our conversations as well. And, apologies for the delay, but we will do our best to keep them coming every week and whatnot. So good conversation, though.
Right on, right on. Well, you guys have a great week, and we'll be back with you next week.
That's right. Stay safe, everybody. Wash your hands.